my name is Amy. I'm an Agile consultant by trade. That's how I earn my living, and I'm a huge Agile nerd, like a lot of people who are seriously into it. And I experimented with applying the Agile methodology to myself. So a very, very brief introduction for those of you who are not software developers. Agile involves a prioritized backlog of things to do, a time-boxed iteration in which to do it, and an inspect and adapt process to allow you to adapt to change and get better. I experimented in 2 areas of my life, personal productivity for about 5 years, and for the past 3 months, money issues in my relationship. I'm going to let you know how that worked out for me. So, in a nutshell, what I would do, it looks a lot like getting things done for those of you who are productivity nerds. I would make a new document every day with my to-do list, and I would italicize the things that I did and strike out the things that I decided that I was not going to do. I'd check in with myself every day. I would say, what did I do since last check-in? What am I going to do before the next check-in? And is there anything in my way? And this slide shows what my to-do list looks like at the beginning of the day and the end of the day. You can see how I've added some things and I've reprioritized some things. That's life, it happens. At the end of the week, I would have like 7 documents like this, and I would read them all, and I would say, okay, what went well this week? And what didn't go so well this week? And what do I want to try again next week? And I do this for myself week after week after week. And I got a lot better. And I've learned 2 things. First, and very humbling, I'm not nearly as effective as I think I am. And no one ever is. I'm working with software teams, people who are professionals, they've been doing it for years, and they still overestimate what they're going to get done by the end of the sprint. This is very humbling and it's very difficult to learn, but once you've got a real grip on what you're actually going to do, then you can change. And I can do things that I never would have expected that I'd be able to do a few years ago. It's very simple and it's very effective. I encourage people to try it. It's fantastic. It's very empirical. This inspect and adapt process, where you do a little bit of work and you look at it and then you plan and you try again, it's very simple, it's very flexible, it's applicable to a number of problems just like the scientific method. So I'm like, hey, let's try this with my relationship, right? I got a job, it didn't pay as much as I hoped it would, and my wife was out of work for the 3rd year in a row. And I'm like, wow, this is really stressful and we're fighting. So I'm like, okay, we're going to put all of our money into Mint, and we're going to sit down every 2 weeks, and we're going to deal with this problem, right? And we'd asked ourselves, okay, what happened since last time? What are we going to do before next time? And what's in our way? And this was amazingly useful. I mean, using this empirical, fact-based process, looking at what's really going on without judgment, is applicable to a very wide range of problems. I've been with an Agile user group for 5 years, a professional community, and one of the things that I've really drawn out of the values of that community is this team approach. You know, we are all in this together. There's no heroes, there's no scapegoats. We're all going to win or crash as a team. And you avoid blame, you're collaborating on your shared objective. You know, you're really working as a team. It's wonderful, powerful stuff. So about the team, yeah, that productivity thing sounds like I'm doing it by myself. I am. Don't you need a team? Yeah. It's very hard to maintain your discipline if you're working all by yourself. So how do you find your team? Well, you can hire a coach. I've hired a coach. It's worth more than therapy. I sell myself out as a coach if you want to hire me. When I was broke, I recruited a buddy. I'd find somebody else who wanted to be a coach. And that works great. There's support groups out there. We're at Quantified Self. I'm sure you can find some other nerd to do a project. But remember, this is never going to happen. There is no finish line to better. You might have this one moment where you're like, yes, I am perfect. And then everything will change and you have to adapt again. So other people have tried Agile on themselves, so I put some links in there for you. And as soon as I sit down, I'm going to post this to the Meetup in the comments so you can read them. And that's my presentation. Any questions?
Cool. So 7 minutes questions. Any questions, guys?
How long have you been doing this?
The productivity part?
Yeah.
By myself since 2007.
How long does it take a day to do that? Or like the presentation?
How much time during the
How long
day?
does it take to do it in the day? Like write it down?
It doesn't take that much time. I still use it at work, but as you can imagine, I'm in a lot of meetings and I'm working with people, so some days I don't do it at all. It's okay if it's spotty. It's just like, wearing your Fitbit. Some days you leave it off, but over time you get a pattern. Some days when I was working by myself, if I was working on my website and I didn't have a job, I'd spend a couple hours on it and I would do that check-in process over and over and over again. I might get stuck. You know how it is when you're working by yourself, you get lost. Sometimes I needed to reprioritize, sometimes I needed a break. But coming back to the list, reprioritizing stuff, and doing your check-in questions helped to get me focused.
Are there any metrics that you quantify over this 5-year period to kind of see how things have been changing, or is it more just subjective?
It was day-to-day and week-to-week retrospectives, and sometimes month and quarterly retrospectives.
How much of it you think was like mindfulness as opposed to like, was it simply the act of writing down and being aware of what you've done? Or
Actually the Google Docs, that's what I was using. The notes, it was like a brain dump, really. It did help me become more aware, but I don't know about mindfulness. Help me prioritize.
I'm kind of curious, are there other things that you do this process of track other than your relationships and productivity? Are there other things that you have thought of this week?
Well, it takes a while to run an experiment, and I tend to only remember what I'm working on at the moment, and those are the two things that I'm using right now. The scientific process of you come up with a hypothesis, and then you design a test, and you run the test, and then you examine the test to see if it matches the hypothesis. That's like a simple logical framework. So the simple logical framework of deciding what to do, doing it, recording what happens while you do it, and then looking at the results and making more plans, that's a simple framework. It can be applied to a wide variety of problems. Those are the only two that I can think of right now.
I'm wondering, on the days where you were more productive or financially secure and you felt that way, was that correlated at all with how happy or well you felt? Like, did you notice any trends in terms of that?
I wasn't tracking my happiness. Anecdotally, I can say when I have financial security and when I have emotional peace, I'm a lot happier, yes.
Did you consider using any of these tools that are available for Agile, like Pivotal Tracker and things like that, as opposed to just a simple sheet?
At the time I started the process, Pivotal Tracker wasn't on my radar. I did, adopt Pivotal Tracker at work about, 3/4 of the way through it. Primarily, I found those Agile tools to be most useful when I'm collaborating with other people. By that point, I already had a system that was very, very lightweight, and I knew it inside and out. So I did that.
Has your wife started using Agile on any of her own problems?
Yes, she does economic empowerment for Indigenous people. And she has adopted lean methodology for her projects, and she's found that to be very useful. She also used it for finding a new career. Yeah.
You said you use it to measure your relationships, and some of that was financial, but were there other dimensions of your relationship that you tried to track within Agile?
No, I was only trying to manage a money problem.
Okay.
And obviously there was a lot more to that. I mean, the way that you approach a conversation in a relationship probably had a lot more to do with my progress than the fact that I was using Mint. Well, no, maybe it's equal amount Mint because we could see our money. But obviously there's a lot more to it than that. But it's a 5-minute presentation, what can I say? Anything else? Excellent, I get to sit down at 5.